What if I told you that one of the most powerful and enduring institutions in the world, the Catholic Church, was just rocked by a move that left millions in disbelief? Imagine the centuries-old traditions of the Vatican being upended in one swift, unexpected decision. In a moment that no one saw coming, Robert Francis Prevost, a cardinal born in the United States, has just been elected as the first ever US-born pope. Yes, you heard that right. For the first time in history, an American is now the leader of the Roman Catholic Church. But hold on, this story is far from just a historic win. It's also sparked one of the biggest controversies in recent Vatican history. This shocking turn of events has sent shockwaves not only through the religious community but also among powerful figures inside the Church. One of the most vocal and influential opponents of this decision is none other than Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle of the Philippines. His fierce reaction, along with growing resistance from other global leaders, has ignited a fierce debate, and some are calling it a crisis that could shake the very core of the Vatican's unity. So what does all of this mean for the future of the Catholic Church? Is the Vatican heading toward a new era, or are we watching it teeter on the edge of a global identity crisis? Let's unpack the drama, the division, and the deep questions raised by this unprecedented papal election. In a decision that's already being described as a turning point in Church history, Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost has ascended to the highest office in the Roman Catholic Church. Born and raised in Chicago, Prevost's path to the papacy is not just remarkable, it's revolutionary. He now holds the distinction of being the first pope to hail from the United States, a country that has historically played a secondary role in Vatican leadership. But while this may sound like a triumph for American Catholics, the reaction from inside the Vatican tells a much more complicated story. Luis Antonio Tagle, a towering figure in global Catholicism and a cardinal from the Philippines, has not held back his discontent. In fact, many believed Tagle was in line to become the next pope himself. His credentials, his international appeal, and his deep commitment to social justice had made him a favorite in many circles. And now? His reaction to Prevost's election has stirred a hornet's nest. The tension inside the Vatican is palpable. So why is this creating such a powerful backlash? To understand, we have to go back to who Robert Francis Prevost is and why his background represents such a significant departure from tradition. Prevost's life journey began in a modest Catholic household in the heart of Chicago. From an early age, he was drawn to the spiritual and intellectual challenges of the Church. He would go on to serve in various high-level roles in the Vatican, eventually gaining recognition as a skilled administrator and theological thinker. Prior to his election, he was the head of the Congregation for Bishops, a crucial position that gave him significant influence over who got promoted within the church hierarchy. But it wasn't just his resume that caught attention. It was his nationality. The Vatican has historically been dominated by European leadership, primarily Italian, Spanish, and Polish. The concept of a US-born pope would have been nearly unthinkable even a few decades ago. The American Catholic Church has always been seen as an important player, but never the center of gravity. That has changed now. Prevost's election symbolizes a dramatic shift in power. For some, it's an exciting new chapter that reflects the changing demographics and influence of global Catholicism. For others, especially traditionalists and leaders from the global South, it's a threat to the Church's identity. Which brings us back to Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle. Tagle has long represented the hope for a more globally inclusive church, one that gives equal weight to the voices of Asia, Africa, and Latin America. When the papal election passed him over in favor of an American, his response was swift and passionate. In public remarks that have since gone viral across religious news outlets, Tagle expressed concern that the Vatican was becoming too aligned with American values and interests. He cautioned that the Church should not be swayed by the power and wealth of one nation, especially when Catholicism is thriving in countries that are often overlooked by Western leaders. He warned that this decision could set a dangerous precedent, one where the Church begins to prioritize Western ideologies over the universal mission it has always claimed to uphold. And let's be clear, Tagle is not alone. Behind the scenes, several other high-ranking Church officials are reportedly echoing his concerns. Sources inside the Vatican suggest that factions are forming, dividing the Church's leadership along geopolitical lines. The Global South, which includes some of the fastest-growing Catholic populations in the world, is now questioning whether their voices truly matter. This isn't just a disagreement over one man's appointment. It's a deep and growing divide over what the Church should look like in the 21st century. Some leaders, especially in the Americas and Europe, argue that Prevost brings a much-needed modernization to the papacy. They see his leadership as a way to make the Church more relevant to younger generations and more engaged with contemporary global issues. But critics like Tagle argue that modernization should not come at the cost of inclusivity. They believe the Church's strength lies in its ability to represent all people, rich or poor, East or West, developed or developing. As this internal struggle unfolds, Catholic communities around the world are watching closely. Is this the beginning of a new, American-led era for the Catholic Church? Or is it a dangerous shift that could fracture the Church's unity? There are even whispers of an emerging power struggle. Some are calling it a brewing civil war within the Vatican hierarchy. High-ranking officials from Asia and Africa are allegedly working together to push back against what they see as an encroaching American agenda. There are talks of demanding more representation in future Vatican decisions, and some are even questioning the fairness of the election process that led to Prevost's selection. These divisions are not superficial. They go deep into the heart of what the Catholic Church represents. For centuries, the Church has claimed to be a universal institution, one that transcends national borders and speaks to a higher spiritual authority. But now, with the rise of a US-born pope, that claim is being tested like never before. Robert Francis Prevost now faces the monumental task of healing this divide. Will he be able to unite the Church under his leadership, or will the fractures grow deeper with time? And what does this mean for everyday Catholics, the millions of faithful who turn to the Church for guidance, community, and hope? Will they embrace this new chapter, or will they feel alienated by what some see as a shift toward American dominance? As the world continues to react to this groundbreaking election, one thing is clear: the Catholic Church is entering uncharted territory. The election of an American pope may mark the beginning of a bold new era, or it may spark one of the greatest challenges the Vatican has ever faced. One thing's for sure: this isn't just about a single man wearing white robes at the Vatican. It's about power, politics, tradition, and the future of one of the most influential institutions in human history. And whether you're a believer, a skeptic, or just someone watching from the sidelines, this is a moment you'll want to keep your eyes on, because what happens next could change everything.